Hey guys, welcome to this discussion today. The discussion is called Before You Sit for the First Class. And in this particular discussion, we are going to take a look at the verbal ability portion. So, the agenda of this particular session is to let you guys know what should be your basic level when you are starting the preparation for any competitive examination. So there are some specific examinations that we are going to discuss today. Okay, and the entire motive behind this discussion is to give you an idea of the level from where the preparation will start when you're sitting in a classroom at Tarkashastra. Okay, so essentially, we want you guys to be at that level, and then we'll pick up from there so that you don't really feel left out or you don't feel like the class is going too fast for you. So, there are some very minor basic things which we should be aware of simply because these are, uh, these are the topics that are covered throughout our lives, okay, in some manner or other. These are some things that we learn merely by observation, and therefore it is not possible to teach them in class for some competitive examination. So you should have this level of basic information and basic understanding of verbal ability before you sit for the class. Let's take a look. So which exams are we talking about today? Now, we said that we are going to take a look at the basic level required to begin preparation for competitive examination. So, which competitive examinations? So, we are thinking of undergraduate exams. We are thinking of management entrance tests. We are thinking of graduate record exam, which is the GRE, and we are thinking of GMAT or graduate management admission test when we are taking this particular discussion. Okay, so undergraduate exams, DU JAT, CUET, SET, IPU CET, IP MAT, JIP MAT, NPAT, MIT, CLAT, etc. Okay, CAT, SNAP, NMAT, TISNET, ZAT, and so on, GRE, and the GMAT. So you should have some basic level when you are starting preparation for these particular graduate examinations. Okay, so for the rest of the discussion, we are going to take a look at what exactly is asked under the verbal ability section for these exams, or rather what is commonly asked. Then in those common parts, what is the minimum level that we are expecting or that we should have before we begin the preparation. Okay, so this is done with an intention of letting you prepare a little bit so that you don't feel left behind, or so that you don't feel like the class is going a little too fast. So have the basics in place and we can build upon it. Okay. Now let's take a look at what is commonly tested in verbal ability areas. Okay. So basically in verbal ability, the commonly tested areas are reading comprehension, something that we've been very well acquainted with since school time, vocabulary, so antonyms, synonyms, homophones, maybe like, fill in the blanks in those format, grammar. So typically, most examinations that we have spoken of will require you to have a basic level of grammar. Okay. So they are not expecting you to be pundits in grammar. They are not expecting you to know each and every rule of grammar. GMAT remains the exception. In GMAT, there are some very specific rules that they test. And when we talk about sentence correction part of GMAT, we need much more deeper understanding of grammar than any other examination we are discussing here. Okay. So aside from GMAT, a basic level of grammar is expected for all the examinations. Context-based understanding. Now, this part is very important because this helps you not only with your RC, but with your para-based questions as well, which is again a very commonly repeated type of question for most competitive examinations. Critical reasoning. Now, critical reasoning is a portion which is again tested quite frequently. It talks about premise, it talks about facts, inferences, assumptions, and so on. Now, critical reasoning is not something that we get acquainted with early on in life, and therefore, this particularly is not an area where we will expect you to have any kind of understanding beforehand, because there is a lot of theory that goes in helping you understand the basic nature of the topic itself. So, this is not expected. Second, paragraph based questions. So there are some very typical approaches to paragraph based questions. So the typical approaches are not expected from you, but a general understanding of how a flow is built in a paragraph, a general understanding, just a little bit of an observation regarding how a paragraph is structured and how there could be a flow to paragraph is expected. This is very possible for you to observe simply by reading anything around you and understanding what is the function of a paragraph. Okay. Now, when I'm saying that these particular topics are tested, I'm not telling you to be prepared for all these topics. What I'm saying is, in all these topics, there'll be some level, basic level that you would have already achieved because of your education throughout so many years. Okay, so that basic minimum level is what we're discussing about today. So as I said, critical reasoning, we don't expect you to have any kind of understanding for this particular topic because there is a lot of theory that goes into it. And without that theory, it's not possible for you to have a sound understanding of this topic. And para-based questions, again, there are some very specific techniques to solve this particular type of question. And therefore, any understanding about paragraph that is very generalized in nature suffices for this particular type of questions. Now, expected levels. Let's take a look at what are the expected levels or what we expect from you. What are the skills that you should have before you are coming to the very first class? Okay. So first of all, reading speed. Now we took a look at the section of reading comprehension, right? So in reading comprehension, we have several topics. Most exams will have diversity in 2 or 3 paragraphs or passages that they are going to provide you. They could be from different topics, different lengths, and different difficulty level. However, what's important is, no matter what is the variance here, our reading speed should not vary a lot. Okay, so what we are looking at is an average reading speed of say 200 to 300 words. Now, this is a huge range. And why there is this range? Because depending on the topic or depending on the difficulty of the language used or the difficulty of the concept that is being mentioned in the passage, you may read a little less in 1 minute. And if the topic is easy for you, maybe if it is a paragraph, something of the sorts where it is simply taken out of a book and has a good flow, then you could even read up to 300 words per minute. Now, this is not something unimaginable to do. I'll prove it to you in the next few minutes. Till then, hold your horses. Don't get worried about this particular number. Next, vocabulary. Now, your vocabulary should be average, not too high in terms of the number of words that you know. That is not really expected, but it should also not be too low in terms of quality. That means there are some commonly used words which you should be aware of. Again, to test this, we are going to have an exercise in the upcoming few minutes. Next, grammar. So what kind of grammatical awareness do we need? Awareness of tenses, subject-verb agreement, form of verbs, parts of speech, common sentence structure, and so on and so forth. Now here, please make a note that we have said awareness. So we are not expecting you to know the rules or to by heart the exceptions for these things before you sit in the class. This will be covered in your grammar module. Okay. but you should have a little bit of an awareness of tenses, what is subject verb agreement, forms of verbs, which, like, different forms are there, parts of speech, what is the common sentence structure, and so on and so forth. Okay, some common idioms and phrases are also a part of grammar for many examinations. Next, context based understanding. Okay, now this particular part is a little bit tricky to explain, simply because if we do not think of a situation, and if we do not think of something that is unsaid, this particular bit tends to lose its importance. So context based understanding means what? It means that you have been given a situation, but some things are not clearly stated. These are the things that you will understand by reading between the lines. Okay. Again, a lot of expertise in this particular area is not required, because that will come with a lot of practice. However, you should be able to read between the lines a little bit at least, or you should be able to infer certain things, or you should be able to understand some things which are not explicitly mentioned. And this understanding should come from what is given to you, okay, in the form of a paragraph or a passage. So let's take a look at different exercises that we have built, so that we can understand the points that I'm making in more depth. First of all, let's take a look at the reading speed exercise. You have been given a paragraph here, or a passage, you can say, a very small one. What I want you to do is pause the video, read the passage or the paragraph, and before you start reading, please record the time. Okay. If you are confused about how to record the time, you can use the stopwatch function, stopwatch of your mobile phones. So before you start reading, just start your stopwatch and be ready to actually start it. So just go to your stopwatch and be ready to start it. As soon as you click on the start for stopwatch, you can start reading the passage. You may pause the video here. Now, I hope you have done the exercise, and I want you to record how many seconds or how many minutes you took to complete this passage or this paragraph in a properly comprehensible manner. Now, what is the expected reading time for a passage of this length? So let's take a look at some expected reading times. Suppose there are more than 25 seconds that you required to complete this particular paragraph. So your reading speed needs a little bit of work, which means that you should probably be reading a little bit more and trying to go through some speed reading techniques, because this is a very small passage and we expect you to finish it in at least 20 to 25 seconds. Okay. Now this will be an average speed. And when I say an average speed, it means the speed of a regular reader. Okay. If you are if you are an aspirant for a competitive examination, this speed will still not do. Why? Because you are going to read a lot and answer a lot, and for that you need to be fast. Okay. If some of you have finished this particular passage in 15 to 20 seconds, that speed can be considered a competitive speed, and that is the speed that is most suitable for any competitive examination. Okay. In case you have taken a lot of time, in case you have taken more than 25 seconds, you don't really need to be quite worried about it at this point. This is just like a reality check for you. And maybe before you start your preparation or before you join a coaching, whatever time you have left, you can use that time duration to improve this particular skill of yours. Let's take a look at the vocabulary part. Now, here we are going to take a look at what is expected from you. Okay. So, given below are some commonly known words which should be recognizable to you. Now, you can pause the video here and go through each word and try to make a note of how many words you know. Once you're done with this particular part, please go ahead and complete this part as well. Here, you have to check whether you know the difference between homophones. Homophones means words which sound similar, but they are spelled differently and they mean different things. Okay, so here we have two pairs of homophones, keen and kin, quiet and quiet. So please pause the video and try to see all the meanings that you know in this particular group of words. I expect that you pause the video and did the exercise. It is again something like a diagnostic test for you so that you understand where exactly you could be lacking or what exactly could be your strength. Now let's take a look at what would be the best outcome for these particular words. If you know around 6 words out of 12 words, your vocabulary is at an average level, so that is good. Less than 6 means you really need to work on your vocab. You're probably not reading a lot, or you have probably not really read a lot in your lifetime. And this is something that you need to fix because all the competitive examinations have reading comprehension and vocab as hugely major part. And unless and until you read a little bit, solving verbal ability section itself will become very challenging to you. And that is not something that we want. Now, if you knew around 8 words out of the 12 given words, your vocabulary can be considered to be good. However, if you knew all the words, your vocabulary is really, really great. So maybe vocabulary is your forte, and this is not exactly where you're going to face a lot of problem while preparing for the examination. So just great to have a reality check of our level, and our entire plan of preparation will depend on where we are beginning from. Therefore, don't get demoralized or don't feel sad about the scores that are not as great as you probably thought they would be. And don't get overly excited if you have done really good in these exercises, simply because you still have a long way to cover. You have enough time to improve and to make all your strengths stronger and to overcome your weaknesses. Okay, let's take a look at another exercise. This one is for grammar. Now, what we are going to do here is we have been given 2 sentences. These 2 sentences may or may not have a grammatical error, and that grammatical error is not something that you should be knowing a lot of grammar to look for or to understand. Okay, so what we are going to look for is an error which you should be able to observe and you should be able to point out instinctively as a result of so many years of learning. Okay, so here you can pause the video again and take a look at the sentence 1 and the sentence 2 and try to identify what's wrong with these sentences. So I hope you did pause the video and solved these 2 sentences for what they are asking us for. Now let's take a look at the first sentence. When I was a kid, I eat a lot of apples. Now obviously you can see that there is a was, which is past tense, and then there is a eat, which is present tense. Now there's a golden rule, or rather this is something that we have observed, that one sentence will not have a combination of tenses usually. So you can say 98% of times you will not have a combination of sentences unless and until it's a very complex sentence, and there are there are provisions for that kind of usage to be valid grammatically, which will happen in very rare cases. So here it is a simple sentence. When I was a kid, I eat a lot of apples. Now we know that either this or this has to change. Why? Because these are the two parts which are not in sync with each other. And therefore, we are going to take a look and try to understand what the sentence is trying to tell us. The sentence is trying to recollect, or sentence is trying to show some kind of nostalgia with respect to the speaker who's saying when I was a kid. So basically, we are talking about past. So was fits here. We are not going to change was. But when we say eat, it is present tense, which means that it has to go. Why? Because here was is telling us that clearly the sentence is in past tense, and therefore we should use a past tense variant of eat, which is ate. Now take a look at the sentence. When I was a kid, I ate a lot of apples. Now this seems to be the grammatically perfect sentence for us. Okay. Now let's take a look at the sentence number 2. Sometimes I walks my dog while other times my dog walk me. Now obviously, if you have any level of familiarity with English, you will find out that I walks and my dog walk are entirely wrong here. This is called subject verb agreement. Now I is the subject and verb is walk. We know that with I, we never use singular form of the verb, or rather we can say we use the form without an S. Okay. So the correct part will be I walk. And when we are talking about a third person, say the dog here, we always use the verb ending with S. Just for the sake of convenience, we are going to refer to it like that now. In the grammar classes, all these things will be much more clearer to you. Okay. So when it is you and I, it is walk. You walk very fast. Okay. You walk with a lot of enthusiasm. I walk my dog. And when we are talking about the second bit of the sentence, where there is a third person, say Ram, Sheila, dog, cat, and so on, the third entity, the third person entity, will go along with a verb that's ending chiefly in S. This is a very simple distinction. Okay. We'll take a look at it in the class in much more detail. So this is called subject verb agreement. When they are agreeing, when they are not agreeing, it is called subject verb disagreement. Now let's take a look at context based understanding. Here again a paragraph is given to you, and what I want you to do is read the paragraph and try to conclude something from the above write-up. More specifically, try to conclude what kind of flow it has and what is happening in the entire paragraph. Okay, what is happening and what kind of flow the paragraph has. You may pause the video now and take a look at the paragraph. I hope you paused the video and took a look at the paragraph. Now let's take a look at what exactly we should be able to conclude from the above write-up. Adjusting in a new city, let alone a new country, let alone a new city, took a toll on my health. So basically, we are talking about bad health here, right? Bad health or ill health. The food, the weather, and the lack of positive interactions made my days melancholic. So melancholic, matlab, for those who don't know the meaning, melancholic means sad, gloomy, okay? Something that is not very enthusiastic. Every morning I woke up with nothing to look forward to. Here it is showing that what kind of loneliness is setting in this person's life. However, this all changed unexpectedly one fine morning. I heard a little cry from under my building's stairs. When I went to inquire, I found a little puppy shivering in the wet coldness. Needless to say, my days feel brighter now, and the melancholy has suddenly disappeared completely. Now, throughout the passage, we can see that there is some person who is in the beginning of the passage who is a little bit sad, right? Till here. Now from here begins some kind of change in the attitude, change, and the person is becoming happier. So this is the flow of how the paragraph has been written. So they are trying to convey sadness, then some kind of reason for a change, and then the outcome that the person is happier. Okay. What else can you conclude from this passage? You can conclude that the person was probably feeling sad because he or she was feeling lonely. Now, how do we conclude this? As soon as the person finds a pet, they are feeling happier and their life feels a little less melancholic to them. This means that all they were lacking was some kind of company to share their time with. This exactly is what we will call context based understanding. The ability to understand that in this situation, what has changed? The only thing that has changed is that previously that person was alone and later on that person found a pet. And therefore, here is where the context based understanding becomes prominent. And therefore, that person was sad because that person was lonely. Okay. Now here you will notice that the feeling of being lonely has not really been emphasized directly. Okay. And that is why this is called as context based understanding. Okay. Had it been explicitly mentioned, it would not have been your job to understand it. Why? Because it has been given. So you don't really need to derive that meaning out of whatever has been said. Okay. So this is what we are trying to achieve before we sit for preparation of any particular examination. For this particular part, context based understanding can be built by reading more. If you feel that you are not able to understand a lot, read more. It will also help you with reading comprehension. If you face problem with vocabulary, again read more, make a note of words that are new to you, and keep using those words as a part of your conversations. Okay. There are some other techniques for building vocab, which we will take a look at in the class. But the thing is, at least some level of vocab is expected from you, at least some level of comprehension is expected from you, and some level of context based understanding is expected from you. Needless to say, we have studied grammar a lot, but we tend to forget it quite often. That is probably the most forgettable part of our entire school syllabus. And therefore, we might end up not having really good grip on grammar by the time we are sitting for these examinations. So, just brushing a little bit or just revising the grammar a little bit will be more than enough, because you are anyway going to have an entire module on grammar. Okay. So that's all from me, and I hope you liked this video. This video was an attempt to help the aspirants reach a level where they are feeling at where they are feeling at pace and at peace with whatever is being taught in the class, and so that they don't feel pressurized a lot when they're sitting in a classroom. So if you are aspiring for any of these examinations, please feel free to watch this video again and again till the time you are actually joining somewhere. And if you feel that this video has helped you, please subscribe us on YouTube. Please follow us on Facebook, and please try to follow us on Instagram as well. We have a website www.tarkashastra.co.in, where you can take a look at our products and all that we can offer you to help you land up in your dream institution. If you like this video, please do give it a like. It will mean a lot to us. And if you want us to come up with more content of this sort or something more innovative, please leave your comments. See you. Bye-bye.